Hey, nobody plans to feel stuck at 40. If you're in your 40s and thinking about changing careers, you probably had this moment. You wake up on Monday morning thinking, how in the fuck did I end up stuck here? You're experienced. You've built a career. You've got responsibilities now, mortgages, car payments, bills, credit cards, maybe a family. So the idea of changing careers feels kind of risky. But here's the mistake I see people make over and over. They assume switching careers means starting over. Check this out. After sitting on hiring panels and reviewing stacks of candidates, I can tell you something that used to mess me up. A lot of people with 15, 20 years of experience walk into interviews and still look like beginners. And it's not because they don't know the job. Why? Because they can't clearly explain their value. Here's the first bad assumption about career pivots. People think switching careers means just starting over. That's not actually true. When people think about changing careers, they assume if I leave my industry, all my experience resets to zero. That's the fear. But in reality, most experience contains transferable problem-solving patterns. For example, operations often translates to process improvements. Operations people don't just run things, they walk into messy workflows. They figure out where things are breaking and tighten it up. Compliance often translates to risk mitigation. Compliance people are making sure that the company doesn't step on legal landmines. Those capabilities don't disappear when you change industries. What disappears is how clearly you communicate them. If a hiring manager can't see how your experience translates, then yes, you look like a beginner. But that's not an experience problem, that's a communication problem.
There was a moment where government was the innovator in industry. And so in order to make impact at scale, I knew I had to leave.
And this is where most people get it wrong. The real problem with career pivots isn't experience, it's positioning. You only start over if you can't explain your value. Let me explain what I mean. I sat on hiring panels for years, reviewing resumes and interviewing candidates. And I watched something happen again and again. People with incredible experience, 10, 15, sometimes 20 years, would walk into the room and we still passed on them. Why? Because every hire carries risk. During the hiring process, managers are quietly asking themselves questions like, will this person actually perform? Are they exaggerating their experiences? Will they struggle in our environment? Will we regret hiring them 6 months from now? And if the resume or interview creates uncertainty, the safest decision is to pass because hiring managers are protecting themselves. So that's the real problem with mid-career pivots. It's not experience, it's positioning. If a hiring manager can't quickly see what problems you solve, how you create value while hiring you is a safe bet, you're probably not going to get that call. Let me ask you something, honestly. If someone asks you right now, what problems do you solve better than most people? Could you answer that in 30 seconds? Most people can't. And that's exactly why they feel stuck.
Not knowing the language, not being able to translate the work that I have done for the federal government, decades of experience over to translate that into something that private sector understands, value that I can deliver at that level.
Now, the second thing that traps people in the wrong career is fear, but not the kind of fear people usually talk about. People say, Robbie, I'm afraid to change careers. No, you're not. What they're really afraid of is losing stability, income, benefits, security, and that's a rational fear. But here's where people go wrong. They treat that fear as an emotion instead of treating it as data. I'll ask you, if you change careers tomorrow, what's the worst thing you think would happen? Seriously, think about it for a second. Try something simple. Write down in 2 columns. In the first column, write down your 3 biggest fears about switching careers. Maybe it's losing income, starting at the bottom, making the wrong move. Now, next to that column, right next to each worst case scenario, what you would actually do if that actually happened. Now look at what you just did. You didn't eliminate the fear, you turned it into a plan.
So I remember somebody calling me a helper, and I was not pleased with that. They come to me is actually for help understanding and defining the problem first.
Exactly. That's not someone doing small tasks, that's someone defining the problem. And companies pay a lot of money for people who can do that. I remember one hiring panel where we reviewed about 60 resumes in 2 hours. Do you know how many we seriously considered? 4. Not because the others, didn't have experience, but because we couldn't quickly figure out what they actually did. And that's where most people misunderstand the job market. People think hiring is all about finding that impressive candidate. It's not. Hiring managers are trying to find the least risky hire. If you stayed in your current role for the next 10 years, how would that feel?
I would feel untested and unproven.
That line right there is something a lot of professionals in their 40s feel. I see resumes all the time that say things like managed operations. Okay, you managed operations, but what does that actually mean? Did you fix a broken process? Did you save money? Did you prevent a problem? Hiring managers don't hire responsibilities, they hire results. This is where mid-career professionals get tripped up. See, your experience usually isn't the problem, it's the way you talk about it. When a hiring manager reads your resume, they're asking one simple question: why should we talk to this person? If the answer isn't obvious, they move on. Instead of saying, I managed compliance operations, say something like, I fixed a reporting process that was causing audit issues across 3 departments. Now, I know what you did. Now I understand the problem you solved. Now you sound like someone worth calling. Now here's something else that surprises people. The job you actually want probably isn't sitting on the job board. The higher the salary goes, the less likely that role ever appears online. See, those jobs move through conversations, referrals, people saying, hey, I know someone who might be good for this, right? I've literally seen hiring managers skip stacks of resumes because someone they trusted said, you should talk to this person. That one introduction can jump you past hundreds of applicants. So if you're thinking about changing careers, the real skill you need isn't another degree. It's 3 things: clarity about the problems you solve, the ability to communicate that value, and conversations with the right people. That's how career pivots actually happen. I want you to take 5 minutes today and write down one sentence. What problems do I solve better than most people? Because that one sentence becomes the foundation for your resume, your interviews, and your networking conversations. Changing careers doesn't mean starting over. It means repositioning what you already know. And once you understand that, you realize something powerful. You're not stuck. You're just positioned wrong. So if you're thinking about changing careers, the real problem usually isn't your experience. It's how your experience is positioned. And the first place that position shows up on your resume is the professional summary. Most people write that section completely wrong. In the next video, I'll show you the exact summary format hiring managers scan in about 10 seconds. Watch that video, and I'll see you there right here.